one of my biggest bugbears, if anyone's listening, please solve this, is like, how have we got all this amazing technology, but we still make toasters where it's so easy to burn toast? Like, surely
That's a great point, Chris.
we should have
Let's
figured
solve
that one
this.
out by now. Like, I
Put
want my
together
toast to
toaster
be
makers.
perfectly brown every single time. Like, we've invented
2026,
cameras,
man.
self-driving cars, rocket ships. Like,
Yeah.
how have we not sorted that out yet?
Welcome to The Extraordinary Show. I'm your host, Forbes Shannon.
And I'm Christine Butler.
And Christine, who do we have today?
Today we have Chris joining us all the way from London. Welcome with us,
Hello.
Chris. How are you?
Such an honor. Yeah, very well, thanks. Very well. It's the sun's shining. It's freezing cold, but I'll take sunshine over a cloud any day. So yeah, happy.
Right. So Aaron nominated you to be on our show. Tell me how you know Aaron.
Gosh, it goes back some years ago. So one of the things I do is I started a company called 42 Courses, which is an e-learning company, and we actually met when he became a customer of ours years ago. And I think Aaron actually took so many of the courses that he became our number one smartest learner in the USA. So
He told us.
Sounds like Aaron.
He said, unfortunately, he's ranked down to 3 now, so he's going to get there.
He's been usurped. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's pretty good. So out of thousands of people in the States, he was number one. So and I think we popped each other a couple of emails and just stayed in touch over the years. But yeah, he's kind of one of those chaps who is always interesting to follow, always doing something, always got something interesting to say and always doing something interesting with interesting people. So I'm a big fan and yeah, thank you if you're listening. An honor to be on the show. So yeah, appreciate it.
Well, Chris, you were extremely fascinating. I was so blessed to meet you in London about a couple months ago over the holidays. Yeah. And I heard your story, but we started a little bit before the 42 courses. You kind of were in the wine business, right? So tell us kind of what you did before 42 courses and lead us into what that is.
Yeah, I think I'm probably one of those chaps who's had quite a varied career. So rather than going to university, I sort of decided to opt out on that. I thought if I went to university, I'd probably end up drinking and going out and not learning very much. I'm not very good with time discipline, but I love sort of wacky ideas and creativity. So I ended up traveling for a year and a half around the world, and I think I learned quite a lot from that and had lots of different random jobs all over the place. And then my first job ended up being to design and build smart homes for people like Sting and Madonna, the head of Deutsche Bank, lots of incredibly rich, often very famous people. Even, I remember when Harry Potter first started, the girl, who's the girl who played Hermione Granger?
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson came in with her parents and they wanted to watch the film the way that it was produced, because we actually were a reseller of Miller and Chrysler. Miller and Chrysler are the company, it's an American company, you'll be glad to know. They make all the reference speakers for when they're doing the studio setup for mixing the sounds. I remember meeting her when she was very young as well. It was quite funny. And then I got very bored and ended up quitting my nice job and went and got a commercial pilot's license, which is a little bit different.
As you do. Yeah.
As you do, one does.
Right?
Yeah, totally. Very natural, natural progression. So I did a lot of flying for a while, and then I was renting a house from this chap who was an Australian guy, ex-advertising chap who had started a vineyard. And he had in the house I was renting, he had all these amazing wines. And I phoned him up one day and said, look, I'm really sorry, but I love wine. Is it possible to drink some of these wines? And he goes, yeah, help yourself. So I think with some friends, we annihilated his cellar over a course of the summer. I don't know whether he regrets that now, but we ended up meeting up and had a great time. And he was telling me how he was starting this vineyard. And at the time, it was the early days of blogging. So this is, like like 2008, 2009, maybe, like quite some time ago. And at the time we had started blogging. I actually got in touch and we started with Matt Mullenweg's the chap who owns or started WordPress, which was the first main blogging platform.
Okay.
We actually started the world's first WordCamp was held in Cape Town, which is where I was at the moment with Matt. I remember Matt stayed at my house, and he's still lovely. He's still taking pictures of foods, I believe, as well. Anyway, not the story, but when I talked about blogging, the Graham, the chap who owned the vineyard, he said, "Well, that's interesting. This blogging thing sounds a lot like word of mouth marketing," which of course it was. It was sort of early days of social media. And he goes, "Well, do you want to join our team and help look after our marketing?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, that'd be lovely." So as myself and 3 or 4 others, like some really talented people in the UK, and together we just started talking about wine in a way that was not, normally wine's quite, I was going to say, I don't know what the correct word is. I'm terribly dyslexic. It's normally made to be quite difficult for people. It's not very approachable. Often when you go to if anyone's listening, you've probably been in a restaurant and been asked, "What wine do you want?" And you quickly pass the wine menu to someone else. So very few people want that.
I can't read it.
That's me.
I have
for
no
sure.
idea.
It's like, I don't know where to begin. So you just look at the price point. You're like, well, I don't want the cheapest one, but I don't want the most expensive one. What's one in the middle?
Somewhere right in the middle. Yeah, split the difference, right? Yeah.
So it's normally kind of, it makes you feel a little bit small sometimes. So our job was, how do we make wine more approachable? How can we make it so that it's not this scary subject? And it took off, and we ended up sponsoring these things called geek dinners. We actually sponsored the first ever TechCrunch dinner for TechCrunch meetup with Michael Arendon, like years ago. We were their sponsor, and I think for a long time in Silicon Valley, sort of Stormhoek, which was the wine brand, was used as a reference of have you made it in the social media world or not? So it's down as the first brand in the world to grow through primarily through social media marketing. I think in some universities it's still taught as a case study. What
was the name
we ended
again?
up doing Stormhoek. It spells a bit strange because it was a South African wine. It's spelled STORMHOEK, which means like a stormy hook, which is in Cape Town. There's like a hook at the bottom of Cape Town, and it's very stormy, hence Stormhoek. That's where the name comes from. But we started these geek dinners, and we did 100 of them in the US, 100 of them in the UK. And as many of your listeners may know, in the US, if you want to get a liquor license over there, it's done state by state. So in most countries, you get a liquor license and you can fly, you can sell the wine anywhere. In the US, you have to do it state by state, which is incredibly time consuming. So the fact that we had these little dinners, we sent the wine obviously for free, and then they often went to their local bottle store and said, "Oh, could you get this wine?" And then they'd phone us. So it was brilliant from a marketing point of view. We actually ended up having Costco, and in the UK, Tesco, phone us up and ask us to stop the wine. So it was a very successful growth. We went from selling 20,000 cases of wine a year to 980,000 cases of wine a year in about a year and a half, which is really big. And
a year and a half, you went from 20,000 to 980,000. Was the vineyard okay with that?
Where's the grapes?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a good question. So what we did is, I mean, most big wine brands, they may have the same label on the wine, but anything that you're seeing in a supermarket is normally, yes, some of it will come from their own vineyard, but most of it is bought from wines around the area. So that's exactly how you grow. We just made sure that we kept the grapes were bought from similar farms where we knew that they grew the grapes in a certain way. So, I mean, I'm not a winemaker, so I couldn't tell you all the details, but a lot of it comes from, if you get the wines from a similar area and a similar soil and they're the same variety, and then if you can use similar processing techniques when you're making the wine itself, then you can get a consistency in flavor. So for us, we were just trying to look for that consistency and flavor. And what we were always wanting was, how do you create a wine that's a good representation of the cultivar? So whether it's Sauvignon Blanc or Merlot or Chenin Blanc. So it's a good example of that. But then how do you make it so that it's extremely drinkable? So rather than just, sometimes when you have a glass of wine, you think, oh, it's nice, but it's quite particular. You only want a glass of it or half a glass of it, or it leaves a bad taste at the back of your throat. We always wanted stuff that you would be quite happy to have a bottle of. Not just because financially that's better for us, but because also we think that, again, wine should be more approachable. So all of our wine was really easy to drink. It ended up being bought by a big American company. And I think it is still around. I see it every now and then in supermarket shelves. I think the quality of the grapes and stuff has gone down a bit, but yes, it's still there somewhere. But from that, I ended up getting into advertising. Sorry, it's a long monologue.
I'm fascinated.
And I think approachable is something, from what I understand, is like kind of been a running red thread in your life. How do I make things more approachable for people, right? Because you started with wine, and then does that kind of lead into 42 courses as well?
Yeah, it does. And I think it's interesting. No one's actually ever pointed that out. I think you're right. Growing up quite dyslexic, I always found it, maybe I'd need to read things 2 or 3 times to understand them. And I think that was always a frustration. I wished that so many things in life, I wished they were easier for us. Again, like, probably this is stuff that's familiar to you as well. So it's like often you just, it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. Often you see these things and you're like, why is this so complicated? Why is this so annoying? It's those kind of thoughts that I think power most entrepreneurs to start something in the first place. If it was Uber, it was like, well, why am I waiting for a cab in the middle of nowhere? I don't know when the cab's going to arrive. And then Travis has the idea to start Uber. Well, here, like, now it shows you where the taxi is. It shows you how long it's going to be, and you know what the price is going to be. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's these annoyances in life, these complications in life, drivers. And I think, maybe entrepreneurs are the anti-bureaucracy crew.
Absolutely. That's a good way to look at it. And here at Extraordinary, that's what we're all about. We're about the human stories behind the success, And so for you, it's the hardships that you went through that created these amazing, fascinating things that you enjoy.
And the frustration of, why isn't this easier? I think that's a really good point. That is definitely how entrepreneurs look at it. The problem is I don't have any like good ideas, like
Not yet. Not yet.
I mean, my one of my biggest bugbears, if anyone's listening, please solve this, is like, how have we got all this amazing technology, but we still make toasters where it's so easy to burn toast? Like, surely
that's a great point, Chris.
We should have figured that one out by now. Like, I want my toast to be perfectly brown every single time. Like, we've invented cameras, self-driving cars, rocket ships. Like, how have we not sorted that out yet?
We just want good bread. All right, that's all we're asking for.
Oh, that's funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
there's probably a running list of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, make a note.
Make a note. Oh, that's funny though. But let's talk about 42 courses, because as an educator, a former educator, I'm obsessed with your idea of 42 courses. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, so that one came out of a frustration with education, not necessarily with school education, although I do think that also fundamentally needs to change, but particularly adult education. So most of us find ourselves in jobs, and then if we ever are sent on training courses or asked to do online training, normally it's seen as a massive chore rather than something that we look forward to.
Right.
And I think mentally that's probably for a few different reasons. Most of us, when we leave university or school, we're probably like, oh God, thank God that's over. now I don't need to do any learning anymore. And that suggests not having the most amazing learning experience. It felt maybe like a chore, and it was a bit boring. So we carry that into our adult working lives, which is obviously not super helpful, particularly when you have change happening. Like, in a perfect world, we need to constantly be learning new things all the time. And there are certain periods in time when that's very important. And I think now is one of those times. We're going through arguably the biggest shift to happen in work probably since the Industrial Revolution. I think this is going to be even bigger than when the internet and mobile phones and mobile internet came about. And I think it's going to happen quite quickly as well. So it's in all of our best interests to learn more and understand things. But I think most people find that very difficult. So my kind of idea behind 42 courses is, how do we create something that makes that less of a chore and less difficult and just really help people? And the kind of subjects that we try and teach. Yeah, make it fun. Yeah. And there are a few things that we try and do. So rather than working with academic institutions, we chose to work with industry professionals. So who are at the top of their game and big winning things. So not just your sort of average people. So, for example, if you're learning behavioral science or behavioral economics with us, you'll learn from like Professor Dan Ariely, who's written 20 books on it. He's got a TV show in the States on Peacock. He's got, he's like the man for behavioral science. Or you'll learn from Rory Sutherland, who, again, like, he's written books on it. He's the chairman of Ogilvy, and he's which is one of the world's largest ad agencies, and all he does is do behavioral science stuff. So you'll learn from the people who do the job day in, day out, who are the best of the best. And our job is to translate what they say into something that's easy for people to understand and highly practical as well. So rather than just teaching you a whole load of theory, how do we make this so that you'll feel comfortable in your day-to-day role applying this knowledge to help you? And I think, so the subjects that we tend to teach are these kind of things that maybe you didn't learn at school or university, but are incredibly helpful for life. So the reason why we called it 42 courses is because 42 in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is a sort of geeky sci-fi book, 42 is the ultimate answer to the question of life, the universe, and everything. So it's, how do we create courses that help people get to the right answers? And I think a lot of that is by asking really good questions. And I think with AI, that's going to become an even more important skill. So the problem that I think a lot of people find, and I see this time and time again, is people type in stuff and it gives you answers, but it's giving you really crappy answers. It's not necessarily because the AI is bad. It's because you've asked it or phrased the question wrong, or you've asked it the wrong question in the first place. So I think a lot of one big skill that we all need to learn is how to think more critically, how to really understand how to ask better questions. I think understanding behavioral science, understanding psychology, understanding creative thinking is really important for that. And it gives you a very quick shortcut to ask questions which will lead you to very interesting answers. Anyway,
well, Aaron and Forbes, they're writing a new book called I Don't Know Shit. And the whole premise is about asking more questions,
Well, curiosity is the antidote, and certainty is the problem. Every time anytime you have a problem, it's a communication problem.
Right.
And every time you have a communication problem, it's because someone that is involved in that communication wasn't being curious enough.
Right.
They just were
thought they knew it all.
I know what you mean. I know what you're going to say, So I love what you said about asking better questions. I mean, what role do you think curiosity plays in the future with AI? And maybe a second follow-up question of that is, do you think people that use AI too much are starting to lose some of their own curiosity?
That's a good question. I mean, I think at its best, AI can help you be more curious, and that it's been
Totally
trained
agree.
on humanity's entire history of knowledge. And
Right.
so it can unearth things for you that you never would have been able to read in the first place. I mean, so let me expand on that a little bit more. I went to actually got invited to go to a random country called Uzbekistan, which I thought was for a minute was a joke country, but it's it's real.
Where is it?
Um, and it was fascinating. It's sort of the former heart of the Silk Road. Most people probably would have heard of the Silk Road, which was sort of essentially the main trade route in the world back in the day,
Hmm.
Mhm.
the kind of late 1400s. And
Oh.
I went there to go and do a talk on sort of AI and how things are changing, and I called it the creative renaissance. And
Mm.
I called it the Renaissance because in the Renaissance, which was a period in mainly most famously in Italy, but the Renaissance happened all over the world, again in around the late 1400s. It was a period of great advancement for humankind. There were a few different things happened then. There was massive advancements in technology, which was the printing press became invented.
Hmm.
And in addition to that, at around the same time, it became quite. There were new manufacturing techniques that were involved that were invented to manufacture materials like paper
Mhm.
more cheaply. So that meant that suddenly information could grow and expand to people where normally it would never be found. Like before that,
Hmm.
most information was found in pictures on church walls. So
On
suddenly,
stone.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was a real pain in the ass. Now
Yeah.
suddenly, you could share information far and wide very cost effectively. Um,
Yeah.
and then in addition to that, they looked at previous lessons from past societies and tried to see how they could take lessons from the past and apply it to today. And back then, they had to send scholars out to mostly old monasteries to try and look through libraries of old books. And they found the works of Epicurus and all these famous old philosophers. And they took things from their readings and applied them to modern day Florence back in the day. So, for example,
Mhm.
when they were building squares in Florence, rather than building them as we build town squares today, which is probably by some meter measurement and lots of codes of boring stuff, they designed their town squares in a very humanistic way. One of the criteria was that a mother should be able to shout to her son at the other side of the town square, and the son should be able to hear the mother's voice.
Mm.
What a lovely way to design something, and what a very
Yeah.
humanistic way to design something.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the reason why I'm saying this is they had to send out scholars all over Europe to try and scan these libraries. We've invented a tool that
Mhm.
has all of those old books, all of that knowledge is locked in to this sort of, let's say, virtual brain to make it easier to understand. And our job is often how do we get the right thing from this brain so that we can understand it and we can use it to help
Hmm.
solve whatever problem it is that we're trying to solve. So I think
Yeah.
by asking the right questions, and if we can train ourselves to to ask the right questions, I think we could even possibly enter the next creative renaissance,
Mm.
which means that maybe we can learn more easily from the past and actually apply some of these amazing lessons to help make the world a better place rather than
Yeah.
a scary place where humanity is no longer needed. Um,
Mhm.
I think the second part of your question you said is, will it make us more stupid? I guess. So, I mean, I think for some people, probably yes, they'll be lazy and just go down that route. But I think it will also be incredibly empowering to millions because
Mhm.
suddenly stuff that was in- really inaccessible to them will be accessible, and I think they can learn things exactly the way that they want to learn. And if you think about it from an education point of view, although I don't think we're quite there yet with AI, and I think we'll get to a point where essentially everyone is able to learn whatever they want in a way that suits
Absolutely.
them, um,
Well,
which will
and
be
with that,
game changing.
go ahead.
No, no, I
Yeah,
mean,
it'll be
which,
completely life changing. And so it
yeah,
brings me to my next question of you've seen such a dramatic change, right? Starting at WordPress, and now we're here with AI where you can get a piece of information in 2.5 seconds. Like
Mm.
that is a really unique perspective that you have on books and media. And so tell us what that change kind of looks like, and where do you predict the future going?
I mean, I'm probably not alone in that. Like, I think
Yeah. Yeah.
anyone who's probably in their 30s or 40s has been through it too. But yeah, it's I guess I've been in the industry.
You've been in it. Yeah. Directly
Very
in
very
it.
yeah, very kind of you to say. Um, uh, I mean, there's going to be probably a lot of struggles before there's a lot of breakthroughs. In that, at the moment, the things that we're seeing is just a vast amount of content being created, and it's incredibly hard for us to filter through it. And I think that will
Mhm.
continue to be the case for a little while. I think there are lots of ways to solve it, and like you can see some of them popping up already. I think there'll be some cross pollination of ideas. So, for example, the blockchain is incredibly powerful, and it's a perfect record of where things come from. So, if we're worried about fake things on AI, like perhaps there's a way to
Mm,
add blockchain
Verify.
technology to AI to
Yeah.
be able to verify whether the writing or the image or the video is fake or real. So
Yep.
I think we have all the tools in place to solve a lot of the problems that we encounter. We probably just haven't joined the dots yet. So
mhm,
I think that's going to be good. I think allowing more people to have a voice and share um, what they
Yeah.
think is generally a good thing. I mean, it's a free speech thing in a way. I think
Right.
the
mhm.
trouble then becomes how do you filter it? Because
Right.
a lot of people have terrible ideas and try and
Yeah.
share terrible
And don't need a
things.
platform. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Just because you can share something doesn't mean you should. Um,
Exactly.
but I think that's why perhaps the education thing, I mean, maybe it's too late for us, but maybe kids today, the education system for them is bound to change, and it's bound to get more personalized. And I think we'll
Mm,
start seeing maybe more philosophical ideas and more kind of critical thinking and things like that taught in schools, which I think will will
mhm.
will help kids and help everyone just think a bit better or a bit more. So maybe there'll be less
Yeah.
of the stupid stuff happening. We
Yeah, I
don't have
think
very much
with
time for that, do we?
well, I think with maybe we don't have enough time today to cover all
Mm,
of these humanities problems that we're going to
Can't
solve.
solve the
But
world today.
I think what you're talking about, I agree with, is like with the rise of this technology, I think people are going to have to be more human.
Yeah.
mm,
Like AI can take care of so many different things, and with the rising of this, these different exponential technologies, which Aaron wrote about in his book Exponential Theory. The key to it is going to be not losing your humanness. Like to
100%.
stay curious and to use AI in a way that it doesn't replace your humanness. It doesn't do your art for you, but it helps you do art better. Like
Yeah,
I think we've both experienced that in our writing. Is it doesn't write for us, but it definitely makes our writing so much better.
Yes.
Using it as a
100%.
writing partner. So,
Mm.
do you think the way that we approach education is going to be different now with this technology? Because like they always told me I'd never have a calculator in my pocket, you know?
Sneak it
And
out.
and now I do, right?
Yeah,
And now I have AI in my pocket,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
So do you think that the way that we educate our children in this new creative renaissance is going to be different?
Yeah, 100%. Th there's a brilliant school actually that's kind of already starting to do that in the US, and let me just try and uh, remember what on earth that
Is
school
it
is
the
called.
homeschool or
No.
like an online? No?
Yeah, it's a real AI school, USA. It's not. It's this Alpha School. There we go. So there's
Alpha
a school
school.
in the
Yes.
US called
Yes.
called Alpha School, which is, and their whole kind of thing is like using AI in the classroom to help
Mhm.
people to help their students advance further, and they have to still stay within a rough curriculum, but they use AI to help just teach each kid at the level where they are at, which is pretty phenomenal. I've not got to experience what apps they're using, so I'm sure that there's it's probably not as, like all things, it's not as good or as bad as as it seems. Um,
Right.
but I think that the main thinking behind it is very fascinating, and perhaps gives most people a good start to a model of where it should be. But that's essentially how do you make the learning, well, how do you get it, how do you make it so that people stay in a state of flow, so that when you're in a state of flow, that is basically this kind of idea that, when you're in those moments where you're doing something and suddenly something happens, and you're like, oh, like I feel like I've been doing this for 3 minutes, but actually you've been doing it for 5 hours. That's probably because you're in a state of flow. It's like the task at hand was perfectly matched to the skill set that you possess. So what you're learning or what you're doing needs to be slightly challenging, but not too challenging. That's kind of how you get into a flow state. And I think in education, if we can do that, that's great. And what's interesting is, there's been tons of studies done, and they found that that when you look at the current way that most people are taught, which is there's a teacher in front of a classroom teaching a lot of people, that was voted the second worst way to learn anything in the world. Can you guess what the worst one was? The worst one was no teacher at all, like nothing. Like so just no learning.
A teacher in front of a room is just a step up, is what you're saying?
Right. A teacher in front of a room is one step up from no learning at all. It's incredibly bad, because you're trying to teach everyone, and everyone's at a different level. Everyone learns things in different ways, and you're treating everyone as one. It makes no sense. If when you think about it, of course it doesn't make any sense. But we do that, and we've been doing that for years, since the Industrial Revolution. I have to apologize. I mean, it was an English invention, mainly from us. So yeah, so sorry about that. But I mean, look, you're in the USA. You're full of amazing tech companies. You should have solved this one by now. So I don't feel quite so bad.
We're doing okay over here.
Yeah. But
I know firsthand as a teacher how insane it is to teach 30 kids on 30 different grade levels in one room. It's a challenge, but I do see a change in the future. Thank God to AI.
It will be fixed. I think AI will be a big part of it. I mean, if you want to go real sci-fi, I could easily see how you could have, I mean, everyone having a private tutor, I think we can kind of imagine already. Like AI sort of already promises that, and I think it will be able to deliver that in a way. I think, how do we bring it to life a bit more? I mean, yes, you could use robotics to give everyone like physical teachers that can take it out of the classroom a bit more. Maybe we'll finally realize that teaching is actually a brilliant thing and start rewarding teachers for that. Yeah. I mean, I think teacher pay worldwide in most countries is so low. Yeah, it's not well valued, and it's one of the main things. That's super important. It's like nurses, doctors, and teachers. You want to pay those things the most, and we tend to, doctors maybe aside, we tend to not pay nurses very well. We tend to not pay teachers very well. It's really sad. We pay bankers very well. I don't think they generally don't do a lot of good in the world. I mean, nothing against bankers, but if you think of how transformative they are for people's lives, it's not great, is it? We value weird things, and that again goes back to that lessons. Maybe if we learn, maybe we can learn from the past to readjust our values, and maybe AI gives us the space to do that. I mean, it's a philosophical thought, but you never know.
I think it's particularly extraordinary how we got here talking about the future of education. And we started with, I skipped going to college because I thought I would drink too much. And then you've went through this whole career renaissance where now you're going to reshape the future of education. I think that's particularly extraordinary.
Yeah.
Chris, we ask everybody who comes on the Extraordinary Show this question. What piece of advice do you have to give to our listeners that could help them live the extraordinary Chris Rawlinson kind of way?
I mean, I'm sure that they'll find their own way. It's better than mine. But I think there's a couple of things. I mean, one of my my dad passed away a few years ago, and I remember I asked him. He's a very creative guy. He was a photographer. He took pictures of the Beatles before they were famous, and he used to travel around the world taking photos of famous people everywhere. A fascinating guy, very creative. And I said, what's the most important thing you've learned in life and that you wish you could pass on? And he said patience. And I
Mm,
think that was such an interesting thing. I think we find ourselves always in a rush. We get annoyed with our children, we get annoyed with ourselves, we get annoyed with others.
yeah.
Often, I think if we paused and had the patience to just stay a little bit calmer, I think we'd have much better, more fulfilling, happier lives. Um, so I
Yeah.
think patience would be up there. And then your whole show, I mean, a lot of it seems to be about curiosity, and I think it is just so valuable to try and read broadly and look at things that previously wouldn't interest you. I mean, whenever I go to a conference or an event, I always try and go to at least one talk that I would never normally go to, that
Hmm.
I'm not
Mm,
I
interested
like
in at
that.
all. Because when you go to those, that's often where the most amazing thoughts come from. Because we all, if you're working in banking, if you're working in advertising, whatever, we all look at the same trade press. We all get the same inputs from the same people. The only way to be different in creativity is to look elsewhere. So force yourself to, I don't know, go to that art exhibit you would never normally go to,
Yeah.
watch that film you would never normally watch, read that book you've been putting off. Um, these little things, they help bring so much to your lives, and they'll help you think so much more differently. And look, the worst case is if you start reading a bad book, you can always stop it. If you
Right.
really hate the
yeah.
talk, you can always leave. So you
Exactly.
don't need to. You don't even need to see the whole thing through. But um, yeah, just try going to something a little bit random. Do that thing that you didn't think you were going to
Yeah.
do. Um, yeah, that would
That
be
is
my
great
advice.
advice, Chris.
I love it.
Thank you
I
so
love
much.
it. I'm gonna go do something weird today.
Yeah, do something
Oh,
weird. That's what, if we had to summarize what Chris said. Yeah.
oh no,
That's
it's
Oh,
an
awesome.
honor.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time. You guys can read more about Chris Rawlinson at joinextraordinary.com. That's JOINEXTRAORDINARY.com. I'm Forbes Shannon.
Christine Butler.
Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Forbes, Christine, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Lots of love. Cheers.